So the Lakers are down 2-1 going into game 4 in Minnesota. Are they cooked? Let's talk about it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Court Vision. I'm going to be talking about in this game what happened in game 3 of Lakers versus Timberwolves, what I think the Lakers can fix, going into game 4, and my outlook on the series going forward. Let's get right into it. So this was a close game pretty much all the way through, was within 4 or 5 possessions. The Lakers were able to stay in it all game, mostly off of LeBron, who ended with 38 points on 21 shots. Really great game from him. He had 3 big threes in a row to keep them in it in the fourth quarter, including a deep pull-up three. But Ant eventually took over in clutch time, and that was kind of it. The last 4 minutes of the game were basically all Minnesota. Biggest narrative from this game was obviously the turnovers and the points off of the turnovers for Minnesota. The Timberwolves just did a great job all game, forcing turnovers and then using that to inject the pace into the game. This is something we've been talking about all series, is the Timberwolves needing to have more pace and, create offense through their defense to be able to get through this Lakers squad. They lost game 2 because they couldn't keep up that pace, right? LA was just the better half-court team. 16 turnovers for the Lakers in this game resulted in 28 points off of those for Minnesota. Jaden McDaniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Dante all were really putting some great pressure on, forcing a lot of those turnovers. McDaniels was all over Luka all game. Nickeil and Dante were clawing for the ball off rebounds, stuff like that, pressuring in isolation, right? There was one possession later in the game in the second half where the Wolves got like 2 steals off of the Lakers getting defensive rebounds, just poking away. It ended with Ant stealing the ball and then driving for like a crazy dunk. Pace is just really such a big key for Minnesota in this series, right? And it's so key for the Lakers to limit that. They got to stop turning the ball over so carelessly. A lot of their turnovers were forced turnovers, but a lot of them were also unforced turnovers. Like there was one time Rui just dribbled the ball off his leg. AR lost it off of some pressure, resulting in a backcourt violation. Braun dropped a pass in the fourth quarter, stuff like that. The ball movement for Minnesota in this game was also really, really excellent, especially in the second half. The Lakers, like they've been doing all series, were putting 2 on the ball on Ant, sometimes outside or on Julius Randle in the post, and they sent a ton of late help on a lot of drives. And Ant and Randle, but especially Ant, just did a great job making those reads, whether it be like him finding Randle one pass away for an easy 3, passing out of a double and initiating that ball movement, eventually resulting in like a swing or like an opportunity to attack a closeout against the Lakers defense in rotation, things like that. The Lakers were just collapsing a ton on those drives. And on those paint touches, they had some possessions where they were actually able to stop it, like some weak side blocks. They actually had 5 blocks in this game, but they largely just couldn't do anything about it. 56 points in the paint for Minnesota, just off of guys, whether it be them attacking closeouts or finding cuts or just driving in space. Jaden McDaniels had a great game, not only attacking those closeouts, which he did a lot, but also just working on Luka in isolation as his primary defender. He had 30 points on 59% from the field, only shot 1 for 5 from 3, but still getting 30 points on that kind of efficiency. Just a great game from him. The Lakers were closing out hard to him, and he was just taking advantage of those. Luka was sick in this game, obviously. That's a big part of it. It resulted in him having a pretty bad game on both ends of the floor, felt a little less involved offensively, and then there were times where he felt like a real liability defensively and kind of wasn't making up for it offensively. He was only 6 for 16 from the field. He wasn't moving like normal. He's always got that slow pace to his game, but tonight sometimes it just looked like he really wasn't able to keep up with the pace of the game. Jaden McDaniels was playing some great defense on him all game. He still had 8 assists. He was managing to find guys when they would give him that 2 on the ball off of a screen or whatever, but he also just had 5 turnovers on some really uncharacteristic stuff. Like some bad passes, like there was one lob that he just threw it right to Julius Randle, and he got the ball just taken from him a couple times, whether it be by Jaden or Rudy down low. And then defensively, Jaden McDaniels had a field day attacking him in that space. That was part of why Jaden McDaniels had such a good game, is because Luka just couldn't stay in front of him. He had a lot of possessions where he either just got beat in isolation by Jaden or by Ant or by Julius Randle, or where he got put into actions and he just wasn't fast enough, it looked like, to recover. He was either getting blown by or his man was able to pop for a 3 and he just couldn't close out fast enough. And scheme-wise, the Lakers weren't really able to hide him as much like they were in game 2. Part of that was because of the pace for the Timberwolves, forcing him to match up in transition, things like that. Even in the half court, he was, up out on the perimeter, really forced to guard in space a lot, and the Wolves were taking a ton of advantage of that. It was especially bad in clutch time because Ant was hunting him. There were like 3 possessions in a row where Ant managed to generate a good shot. It was like first he hit him with a step back, then he got a blow by into a layup. Then on a third possession, he got put into a screen action, and Ant got past him. Eventually, it resulted in a kick-out 3. Just him getting attacked back to back to back. Speaking of Ant, he totally took over in the clutch in these games. He had those 3 possessions I just mentioned on Luka. He had like a crazy blow-by on LeBron in isolation that he got to a tough layup through that. He hit like a step back on DFS late in the game. He ended up with 29, 8, and 8, 5 for 10 from 3. Which was a good mix of like just some tough step backs and isolation on the ball, and then a couple really clean off-ball looks, whether it be like Randall finding him out of a double inside or him coming off a screen. Just a very good mixture of those on-ball and off-ball looks. All in all, it just really felt like a very disciplined game from him. He was making the right reads. When the coverage came, he was not really trying to force his offense until that fourth quarter where he took over with those possessions late. 8 assists in this game, generated off of like him passing out of those doubles, finding his shooters, or finding the kick when he got late help on a drive. Just very, very clean game. Not much to say. And then he also had one big defensive play late in the fourth quarter where he was able to get like his hands on the ball. I thought it should have been a tie-up, but it wasn't. Randall had another good game in this one. He shot poorly from the field, just 6 for 13, but he was actually really physical inside scoring when he was just seeing that one on the post up. He went 9 for 10 from the line, and he was just doing a good job being like connective either as a passer on the swing or passing out of double teams from in the post. And then he also had a pretty big defensive possession like Ant did in the last couple minutes where he defended Luka really well on an island in space and prevented him from getting a good shot. So it's kind of an odd game from Austin Reaves. He had some good stretches, was 5 for 11 from 3, including like some pretty big important ones to keep them from falling too far behind throughout the second and the third quarter. But he also just had some stretches where he wasn't able to hit shots, wasn't able to get open for shots, and ended with 20 pretty inefficiently. And that kind of speaks to one of the big problems that the Lakers have had in this game, but also kind of in the series as a whole, especially in that game 1 loss, is they're just not really finding contributions from guys down the roster. And part of that is because of those guys not hitting shots or whatever, but a part of that is it just feels like the offense isn't designed to have them super involved. It feels like it's centered around Luka and then sometimes LeBron or Austin Reaves running the show, playing that on-ball heliocentric style, but there's not really like some team offense to go to, either when those guys are off like Luka was tonight or when the Minnesota defense is really pressuring. So everyone outside of the big 3 for the Lakers only had 29 points on 23 shots compared to the big 3 having 75 points on 55 shots. So the shot distribution is pretty bad there. Jackson Hayes especially has looked pretty rough in this series. He's been getting 10 or less minutes in every game, and it doesn't seem like he has a purpose to be on the floor. Defensively, he doesn't provide good rim protection, and he doesn't hold up super well in the switch-heavy scheme they run. And then offensively, he's not super involved as like a screener and roller or as like a lob threat. Plus, he isn't a shooter, so he messes up their spacing. It just really feels like there's no reason for him to be on the floor. Rudy Gobert was fine in this game. He had a pretty good first half defensively. He was either breaking up lob passes or just playing his traditional drop, affecting shots at the rim, had 1 block early on. But he only played 10 minutes in the second half because of partially how useless he is offensively. He only had 1 point on a free throw, 1 for 4 from the line, 0 box score shots. He was trying to take some shots that he got fouled on or whatever, but those don't count towards the box score. So he was 0 for 0 from the field, 1 for 4 from the line. And he also, the other big thing for him is he just wasn't really a presence on the glass. He played 25 minutes and he only had 3 rebounds against the smaller Lakers team. It feels kind of crazy. If he wants to be getting more minutes, he's got to be on the glass because Naz Reid just does more offensively, and then defensively, Rudy Gobert's talents aren't as necessary in this specific series. If you're the Wolves, you feel pretty good going into Game 4 here. Up 2-1, going into the next game in your own building. They clearly found the formula to win this series, right? This ball movement, keeping everyone involved, punishing the help that the Lakers are sending on Ant, the relentless pace they play with off of turnovers and misses, pushing the ball ahead, and just being a clutch scorer who can take over, Randall playing a good series. That's how they can win, right? The other thing that makes you feel really positively if you're a Wolves fan is they won this game 3 without the crazy shooting that they had in game 1. They were only 13 for 36 from 3, but still came away with what I think was a fairly convincing win. For them, they just got to keep the pace up, keep Jaden McDaniels involved offensively, and just keep punishing the help that they have to send to Ant or Randall. I wouldn't give up hope, though, for the Lakers quite yet. Obviously, Luka was sick in this game. If he's better for game 4, you'd expect that to benefit the Lakers offensively. But there are also a lot of adjustments that I think the Lakers should make going forward here. One, they got to stop turning the ball over. That's the easiest thing. Less turnovers is less easy offense, less pace for the Timberwolves, 2 things that they really want. If you can slow them down, you have a much easier time winning these games because you're a better half-court offense, and then your defense personally is much better in the half-court than it is in transition. And then defensively, some of the adjustments I want to see is on the kind of micro level. I think you have to mostly stick to your game plan, but there's a few smaller changes that stick out to me. When it comes to defending Ant, I think you have to continue to show him different coverages, continue to show that late help, continuing to force him to be a playmaker. But I think the early help needs to be a little less aggressive. Don't maybe send as much on him in isolation unless you're trying to force a switchback or blitz late in the shot clock, obviously. I think the Lakers should continue to send late help. I think that's been fairly effective when it's come, even if Ant has been playmaking fairly well out of it. I think your rotations just need to be a little better. You need to be more timely, more aware of when your rotations are coming. Simple to say, just rotate better, but it's the truth. And then specifically when it comes to helping off of Jaden McDaniels, please stop closing out to him so aggressively. He's shot poorly from 3 his whole career, and he's continued to shoot poorly from 3 in this series. He's much more dangerous attacking that aggressive closeout that you're giving him than he is taking a bunch of threes. I think you're going to live with him taking threes. The other thing defensively for the Lakers I want to see is you got to try and hide Luka a little more if you can, right? He was getting bullied all game in isolation or getting put into action, and it just didn't look pretty. If you can, just try and let him be a help guy down low, helping off of Jaden McDaniels. And whenever he's targeted in isolation, you got to do something to get him out of that position, whether it be like a blitz or him peel switching or sending aggressive help at the nail from the weak side while someone zones up 2 shooters, something like that. And then offensively, the big thing is I just want to see a change of pace other than Luka or LeBron running the show kind of on ball. Some of my favorite looks from them in this series have been LeBron or Austin Reeves coming off of a pin down to catch the ball in motion for a 3 or to get downhill, or the couple times they've run something like a Spain pick and roll with Austin Reeves or Bron being the shooter. These kinds of plays are still empowering your best players in your big 3, but it's a little less reliant on just one of them beating their guy with skill. I'd also like to see LeBron as a screener a little bit more. I don't think they've gone to that look enough, because I think he's a great decision maker on the short roll. He's a downhill threat. If they put 2 on the ball handler, he draws a lot of attention as a roll man, either for kick out threes or for Reeves or Luke as the ball handler to make plays. It also puts Julius Randle in a position having to defend the pick and roll or those screen actions, which he's been a little worse at than defending just straight up in isolation. Using Austin Reeves kind of as a motion shooter as well should be something that they should look for. He's been good on high volume recently, and I think he hasn't had enough opportunity to either come off a pin down or off a drag screen for a DHO for an easy 3, something like that. That's all I've got in this one. A little less content, for the next week or 2. Got finals coming up, got to work on that. But I'm still going to be continuing to watch these games, still going to be continuing to cover them as they happen. We're getting towards the end of round 1, so we'll be doing some previews for round 2, some reviews of what happened in some of these series. So subscribe if you want to see those, and I'll see you in the next video.